What's something most people don't realize is extremely dirty, gross, unsanitary? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Splashback from standing up and peeing for my fellow dudes out there. There is so much pee that makes it out of the toilet as a result of the impact of the pee, and dudes don't seem to give a damn about it getting all over their shoes and pants and lower legs. Amazes me that more guys don't just take a seat and avoid the inevitable splashback. Started doing this after cleaning my bathroom floor last time and removing all the stickiness from splattered toilet urine water. Now my feet don't make that gross sticking sound when I walk across the tile away from the toilet. I thought I was the only one. Story 2. Many fountain soda dispensers and bar gun dispensers never get properly cleaned, sanitized, and harbor molds, fungi, and bacteria. Drink up. We had to soak our bar guns nightly during closing procedures. Took them apart at least once a week too. They get rank otherwise. Owners were very adamant the nozzles and whole soda machine be taken fully apart every single day. Soaked the nozzles in a mild bleach solution, and each nozzle was scrubbed with a toothbrush. They also had us clean every single inch of the kitchen daily. I hated it, but damn, that was probably the cleanest establishment I have ever worked at. Another story, place I work at hasn't cleaned their ice machine once in the 2 years I've worked there. I constantly have to pick out ice with bits of mold in it. It's disgusting, and they don't do jack about it, no matter how many times I point out all the grime. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. I'd report them myself, but I've seen the health inspection reports. They fail regularly, but nothing ever comes of it. Story 3. Books at the library and keyboards. Source. Used to work in a library. I used to put books on the shelves in the children's section of the library. Sometimes those books smelled like poop or throw up, and I'm convinced the kids took the books to the bathroom with them. I worked at a bookstore for a while, and one of the worst things I found in the kids section was someone had changed their baby on the little table there, and instead of walking literally 2 feet away to throw it. In the trash can, they had shoved it on a shelf behind some books. It took us 2 days to find where the smell was coming from. Before that day, I could convince myself that people were basically decent, and most grown-ass adults were capable of cleaning up after themselves. Story 4. When people lick their finger before turning pages or counting out money. If you handle a lot of cash, you'll notice it actually leaves a smell on your hands that takes a serious hand washing to get off. LOL, don't even want to know what's all over it. As someone who used to be a cashier during peak COVID, whenever someone would do that, I would stare at them. Wait for them to try and hand me the money they just got their saliva on with their saliva fingers and make them wait for me to put gloves on. So glad I'm not a cashier anymore. Pro tip, if you absolutely need extra finger traction to turn a page, just exhale onto your fingertips like you're trying to fog up a pane of glass. It's easily enough moisture to give your fingers traction, but with a fraction of the grossness. Story 5. Clean under your fingernails. Use an old toothbrush if you have to. Don't use the same brush for both. This is why I keep my nails as short as possible. Can't have dirty fingernails if the dirt doesn't have anywhere to hide. I really wish it'd just be normalized for all people to cut their nails short, regardless of gender. Why did it ever become a thing to intentionally leave a dead nail hanging an inch off the end of your finger? Fingernails are absolutely filthy, even if there isn't any visible dirt. Anytime you scratch an itch even, you're getting skin under your nails, and being that dead skin is organic material, it rots. The longer they are, the more area there is for gunk to collect. Anytime there is a potluck at work, before I help myself to any home-cooked food, I always glance at that person's fingernails. If they're long, I won't eat anything they cooked. Story 6. Kitchen sponges. These things are gross, likely one of the dirtiest things in your home. The solution is dishcloth. Buy a jumbo pack. They work the same as a sponge, but rinse out easier. Toss it in the laundry daily. They take virtually no room in the wash. I use those Swedish dishcloths. They dry out super fast, so less likely to get smelly or harbor bacteria, and hold up really well to washing. Or you can even boil them to be super sure they are sterile. And when they get to decrepit, you can put them in the compost as they're made of plant fibers. I cut them into squares and use them to stop soil falling out the bottom of plant pots, or for weed suppression under mulch, so it doesn't worry me if they don't break down very fast. Story 7. Not washing their hands every time they use the restroom. Even if you haven't actively gotten urine feces on your hands from yourself, you have touched dozens of things that other people with urine feces have touched before you by entering that room. Also, This is your chance to keep your hands clean from the thousands of other surfaces, doorknobs, and light switches outside the bathroom. I might get killed on this, but I'm gonna try it anyways. I've taken up the habit of washing my hands before I use the restroom. Touching the world, as evidenced by this thread, is nasty, and then touching my junk. No thanks. If I'm taking a leak, I'll skip the after, but I'm for sure washing if I take a dump. I would argue that after is kind of moot too if the door doesn't have a foot thing to open it. Once you grab the door, you're fair game to everyone that hasn't washed their hands. Story 8. Your steering wheel. Think of all the things you touch when you're out and about, then get back into your car and transfer it all to your steering wheel, especially the gas pump. This is why I keep a bottle of hand sanitizer and wet wipes in my car door. Gas pumps. I also tend to hand sanitizer after using a public bathroom, even though I always have my hands. So that too. COVID got me in the habit of using a baby wipe and sanitizer every time I got into the car from being out and about. Then using a new wipe and sanitizer on my steering wheel and shifter. I have a cover so it's not breaking down the actual wheel. I was never an unsanitary person, but COVID time definitely taught me to be aware of things like high-touch surfaces. Story 9. Your keyboard. It's hard to clean and is used almost constantly. I would not want to disturb the ecosystem that's living under my keycaps. There's probably a civilization down there, and geologists can date every major event by analyzing the cookie crumb stratus. Pulling all the keys out and cleaning the keyboard took me half a bottle of isopropyl alcohol and an entire box of Q-tips. It was super satisfying. I hadn't done it for the entire 6 years I owned the keyboard, just an occasional poof-poof with the compressed air. It was disgusting. It's probably already reached a gross level again, but I'm never cleaning it again. I'm just gonna buy a new keyboard next time. Story 10. Doorknobs handles, faucet handles, the backs and armrests of chairs and the underside edge of chair seats, water fountains, elevator buttons, escalator handrails, oven, dishwasher and refrigerator buttons and handles, condiment bottles, salt and pepper shakers, cupboard handles, garbage can handles, napkin holders, grocery carts, canned and boxed goods, sealed meats, all produce, ice cream cones, etc. Anything hands touch. Just pay attention to where all you touch. You can probably safely assume that the person who touched it before you had filthy hands. People almost never wash their doorknobs, and everyone who touches it is a filthy animal. Your teenage son is scratching his itchy anus because he says washing it properly is gay. Plus, he is making the banana cry on the regular. The adults are no better. Story 11. Drinking from canned beverages without cleaning them off. You have no idea what's been touching that before it touches your lips. Grocery worker here. To add to this, the packaging of all the food you buy at the grocery store. The cases come in covered in thick black dust from all the grime in the warehouse, some of which is the powdered bird droppings I frequently see on said cases. Then a stalker who got dirty hands from opening these cases all night pulls it out and handles it before putting it onto a shelf that has never been washed and has spent years collecting every cough, sneeze, handprint, and spill of thousands of people walking by. Like I wash my hands before I go to the bathroom at work because they turn the water black. And I don't want that on my junk. The refrigerated and frozen stuff is probably even worse because the stalker is using the same pair of gloves they've had for months that's either gotten damp from the frozen stuff or sodden with milk yogurt from spills. I often see people use the box as an impromptu plate, especially for things like frozen pizzas, and it always gives me the heebies. Story 12. The space behind your ears if you don't specifically clean behind them. In cosmetology school, the amount of elderly people who came in with black gunk built up behind their ears. They really weren't kidding when they said to not forget to wash behind your ears. Apparently belly buttons too. Saw some Discovery show with an interview with a surgeon who does laparoscopic procedures, and he was saying how disgusting people let their belly buttons get, and his team has to clean it out real well before starting surgery. I was obese as a kid and unfortunately neglected belly button hygiene. One day I noticed a pain in my abdomen. The next day I woke up and the pain was unbearable. It was an ambient throbbing pain that would transform into a hellfire of pain if I adjusted my abdomen in any way. So basically any type of movement in daily life. I didn't say anything to my parents because I hated going to the doctor, so I just kept taking Tylenol to make it somewhat manageable and stayed in my room. Luckily, it was summer vacation. I started Googling stomach pain. And of course got all kinds of things about cancer, exploded intestines, hernia, etc., which scared me shitless. About 4 days later, I woke up and noticed that sitting up in bed was substantially less painful. At the same time, I noticed that my shirt is wet and stained with blood near the belly button area. I lifted my shirt and saw bloody pus oozing out of my belly button. I'm not joking about the oozing part. That was literally leaking. And the smell. I never knew that I could be offended by a smell that came from my own body. I mean, no one's shit smells good, but your own shit is tolerable. This was a foul smell that was an indecency against humanity. Did more Googling and found out that I had developed a cyst inside of my belly button. Because I was obese, I didn't notice it until it was too late. For 2 weeks thereafter, I had a daily routine of literally laying back and pouring hydrogen peroxide into my belly button, which foamed up like a chemical reaction. Then multiple times throughout the day, I was cleaning with tips to clean up all the extra ooze and bloody pus crust. I learned my lesson, to say the least. These days, my belly button is so clean you could eat butter pecan ice cream out of that. Story 13. Here's something no one thinks about. Luggage. You're dragging your suitcase, and maybe an attached tote bag, across sidewalks, floors, maybe airport bathrooms. Then what? Handling them when putting them in the overhead bins on the airplane, which makes the bins pretty gross too. I'm still shocked when I hear people say they set their luggage on the hotel bed. Airplane seats are gross too. Nothing gets sanitized between flights, so there could be all kinds of germs on the armrests, tray tables, etc. I've seen people put their bare feet on the tray tables. The other day as we were deplaning, the girl next to me got up and her seat was wet from crotch sweat. Story 14. Any and all goods that are made in-house at grocery store Dallas. Biggest offenders are chicken protein salads and mixed salads like slaws and kale salads that are pre-mixed. The choppers that cut the meat for the salads have parts that are extremely tiny and easy to miss when cleaning them. You'd have to hire a staff of OCD people to make sure it's deep cleaned after every use. And sadly, it's never the case. I've worked in so many different prep kitchens, and 99% of them have all had dirty, gunky mixers and choppers that no one cares to clean thoroughly. Salad dressing containers and salad bars are the same. No one has brushes to deep clean those things, and I guarantee they're just hit with the handheld sink sprayer and dipped in the sandy water and all. Oils cling to plastic containers if you walk back there and grab a clean salad dressing bottle. I guarantee you'll feel grease on the inside from hundreds of refills. If you think you got sick from the food you ate at a fast food place, it's gonna be from your foods with dressings and sauces. Story 15. I spent years working in public hospitals, and the amount of people who let their toddlers crawl around on the ward floors is horrifying. If you had any idea how germy and disgusting hospital floors were, had seen what gets spilt on them, everything from infectious waste to blood, urine, vomit, feces, and what gets inadvertently walked all over the place on the bottom of people's shoes, you would not want to touch them, let alone lie down on the carpet like some people do. Just know. It's even worse if the kid is also eating with the same hands that were just touching the hospital floor. I used to pick people up on it regularly, and they generally assumed that the floors would be sterile and clean because it was a hospital. Nope. If it's slippery and is not yours. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.